Welcome back to TalkNorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. We are live at Tin Shed in Savage. This is the Russo-Souhan Show. I'm Jim Souhan. Thanks to all of our regulars and non-regulars who showed up tonight on a very the first nasty night of the winter. Michael actually got off the plane, did whatever Michael Russo does in afternoons, and then came out here. So you're probably exhausted.
Yeah, a little tired. It was definitely a shock to land in this after being in tough Anaheim, San Jose, Phoenix, and LA, where it didn't go below about 75 for the last 10 days. And then you get into that jetway at Minneapolis Airport there, Minneapolis-St. Paul Airport there, and it's and you're just like, whoa, I wish I brought my trench coat. So,
and I'm sure everybody here feels sorry for you. They had to spend all the time in warm weather and come back here.
Yeah, no, it was a good trip from that standpoint. Okay trip from the team standpoint. 2-2 could have easily been 3-1. Could have been 4-0, or it could have been 0-4. I mean, that's just the way this team is right now. It's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were like, God, man, the Wild could really be 7-0 right now if you think going back to that Dallas game. I'm like, yeah, but they could also be 0-7. So, interesting trip. Fell down 2-0 in every game. And what's so crazy about that is that this team, from the very, very beginning of this season, the one strength they had was actually the way they started games. It was crazy. They actually, up until that game in San Jose, had given up the fewest first period goals in the league, and that was with them giving up 3 goals in Montreal in the first period. And then all of a sudden, the last this whole trip, it just seemed to fall apart, and they had to rally back, and they should have easily done it last night against the LA Kings, a team that is it's like looking in the mirror, frankly, from a slow aging rebuild type of standpoint, and so. The Wild didn't get it done, and it just shows you they can't live on that life every single game where you just try to rally back from 2 goals down. When you're a team like Minnesota, it doesn't score very easily, as we saw yesterday against the Kings. They had tons of chances, and they just couldn't bury the puck.
Why did they end up going from L.A. up north 2 games and back to L.A.?
Yeah, well, they went Anaheim, San Jose, Phoenix, L.A. I think it was building availability. It was also the Kings were on the road. So the Kings were on a road trip. So normally you do that Anaheim, L.A. back-to-back or have a day between. They couldn't do that because L.A. was in Eastern Canada. And then when they came back and the Wild were in L.A. for a couple days, they would love to have had a game Monday night, but the Clippers were in town that night. So that's a busy building. And, geographically nonsensical, like this entire start to the season for the Wild. Their schedule is just ridiculous. I think the league realizes it's ridiculous. There's been a lot of complaining to the NHL about this, and I think the NHL realizes that this was just insane. Not that this is an excuse for where they are, but it certainly hasn't helped to play 13 your first 18, then come back for 2, and then now 7 of your next 10 on the road. It's just nuts. And the other thing, from a standpoint of whether you think you're making excuses about their success, from a marketing standpoint, and maybe the way they're playing, it's better they're away from Minnesota, but it's hard for fans, even if they were playing well, to just grasp what's going on with the team. I mean, they're gone all the time. There's no local practices. There's no games to get excited for, really. And so the fans just don't seem to have embraced this team at all. And I think a lot of it's just based the fact that they've been gone all the time.
As you were on the West Coast, your friend, Russo Slacks, tweeted a lot of, he went down memory lane.
It would have been nice if he took a nap every now and then. Maybe gone to sleep early. These 9:30 starts. Go to sleep early.
He reminded us that there was a time we were both staying in the Phoenix area, and of course I was staying in a normal hotel room, and you were staying in the Taj Mahal of all hotel suites.
Yeah.
And so of course we had to go to your suite to do the show, and you had to show off your personal pool.
Yeah, I had a private pool.
And Russo Slacks got word of it and sent out 18 million Photoshops.
Yeah. Great guy.
That's all you got?
I don't know. That was a very funny. The best.
You hate giving him credit for anything.
Let's admit it's getting a little tired, his act, but he came up with a good one the other day. A nice little Photoshop. The team yesterday. Not that this is deserved, but got a police escort from Marina Del Rey to the Staples Center, and he came up with, and so Ryan Carter took a picture of these these chips on motorcycles, ready to give them a police escort, and he photoshopped me on Ponch's body, I guess, and put it out there. And it was
that wasn't
funny.
You?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to play that. Like my buddy and I would get home from school. I'd do my paper route. We'd get on bikes, and I'd be Ponch, he'd be John. We'd pretend like we were Chips. Remember that show? It was great. These kids have no idea what Chips was.
Google it.
Yeah, Google it. You know what? What's your name? Mitchell. You know what you need to Google? Sean Harkoff. Google Sean Harkoff, because you look exactly like him. So... Anyway, that just popped in my head. I looked over there. I'm like, why is Sean Harkoff over there?
It's going to be a stream of consciousness show tonight. This is our hockey show on TalkNorth.com. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod as we have some developments with the business. That's a good place to figure out where our live shows are, what other shows we have on the network, and we'll have some kind of fun stuff in the future there. Thanks to our sponsors. Again, we are live at Tin Shed in Savage. You can find out all the information you need about Tin Shed at tinshedmn.com. Next live show is next Wednesday at 7:30. They have an event here, so we're start a little later than usual, 7:30. And thank you to all of our sponsors, Twill in the Edina Galleria, Fixologyrepair.com, Tony Hoagland, your State Farm agent, and Bite Squad, bitesquad.com. Let's start with the goalies. Dubnyk gave up a soft goal early last night. And I know this is a recurring theme with us, but are we any closer to some kind of a goalie competition here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, I like Stalock a lot, but the reality is that that he's still a 32-year-old career backup. I mean, he's not just going to come in and take Doobie's job. I mean, every now and then he comes in and he plays really well, and then all of a sudden he has a game like San Jose. Now, he was absolutely hung out to dry that game, but there was still that second goal needs to be stopped. There were a couple others, the same thing. I give him credit for falling on the knife that game. But there's not, I mean, Doobie's still the guy. He's just got to play better. And last night, after that first goal, he was really good the rest of the game. I mean, there's nothing he could have done on the second goal. The first goal, he explained what happened. I mean, it still looks clumsy, and it's just an awful way for a team that can't score to start a hockey game. The whole narrative coming into that game is don't get behind, don't get behind, don't get behind, and then 70 seconds in, they're behind on just a needless goal. And so he's got to be better. There's no doubt about it. So I talked to Billy Guerin about the goaltending situation when we were in San Jose. I'm working on a bigger story about, what eventually the potential succession plan could be for Dubnyk and Stalock. Stalock's got 2 years left on his deal. Doobie's got one after this year. And then they've got to figure out what's next. And the good news is that Kakkonen and Robson are playing really well in the minors. Hunter Jones has gotten off a great start in the Canadian Hockey League. And so maybe one of these three or two of these three or even three of these three turn out to be the real deal. And that the time left on both their contracts allows a bit of succession in it. And it also allows Billy Guerin to focus his efforts on other things rather than worrying about going out and going to find that goalie, because maybe he's sitting for the first time in a long time right here in the organization. So that's the big thing here. But Doobie's just got to play better. They just can't afford him to give up goals like that to start the game. And it's a tough thing for any goalie to feel like you have to play perfect every game. But to have a goal like that go in so quickly yesterday, it just kind of took a damper out of it. And then we saw, the rest of the period, the Wild dominated. For most of the second, they dominated. The first 6 minutes of the third, they dominated, and they just couldn't score other than the Dumba goal.
We'll take live questions. Just come up to Brandon. He'll hand you that mic. Feel free to come up anytime during the show. We welcome all questions. I know we got to see Vicky up there at some point. Also, Brian from Tin Shed gives away wild tickets periodically. You need to be here to enter. Just come up and fill out the information and drop it in the fishbowl. You also need to be here to win. So whenever Brian does hold the raffle, he will call out names, and the first name he calls out who is actually here in person will win the tickets. He's been giving away a lot of tickets. We appreciate him doing that. And again, that's Brian providing the tickets, not our network, so we appreciate the support there. Let's quickly thank Twill in the Edina Galleria. They have one of their trunk shows this weekend. It's the Alan Payne Trunk Show. Show up at Twill in the Edina Galleria. It's in the Edina Galleria right there in France. Very easy to get to, easy place to find parking and walk around. Alan Payne Trunk Show, get 20% off their entire Alan Payne fall collection. I mean, I wear Twill. This is a Twill shirt. It's great for winter. I was telling a couple of our listeners, this is a Twill hat. It's actually got the ear flaps that go down. It's insulated. It's waterproof. Just like the perfect winter hat for a bald guy. They have not only they have a lot of great clothes, they have a lot of cool little stuff like this that you might not find anyplace else. So check out twillmn.com, Twill Edina on Instagram. See photos of everything they have. And again, this Saturday, they have the Alan Payne Trunk Show. Yes, sir.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Goaltending question. With Kemper, did you see him being as a good? He's having a great season. Did you see that when he was with the Wild?
See what?
That he's going to be doing as well as
flashes.
he did.
He showed flashes of it, but they gave him every opportunity to take the reins of this team, and he just never really did it. I mean, if you remember in 1 year after he held strong to get that one-way contract. I think he started 16 straight games to start that year. In the playoffs, a couple times he got starts. One reason why they got Dubnyk was that he was really playing poorly. And if you remember his last year here, the March, Dubnyk was struggling. Kemper, they felt like they couldn't even put in net, that they healthy scratched him, and had Stalock come up and play 2 games in the middle of a playoff race. So, I mean, he was much younger then. But I think we all saw flashes of being a great goalie, but everything with him was between the years. He'd be playing an immensely great game and then give up one goal, an awful goal, and then it would just be 2-3. And it was the constant pattern with him every time he would start for a long time. So he's got elite talent. It's definitely there. I think when he is mentally strong, he could be a really good goalie. And we saw the other night against Minnesota, he took himself out of the game. The Wild got in his head because he started chirping at them. He picked the wrong guy to chirp with.
That was my next question.
I mean, that was just stupid.
What
if
did
you're
he
going to
say?
pick anybody on the Wild, I wouldn't start picking on Eric Stahl, because that's going to incite everybody. And that's what happened. And it infuriated the captain. There's a respect. Mikko's all business, and I know that fans drives him crazy, but Mikko is all about the team. He's all about playing the game with respect. And when, Eric Stahl, who's achieved more in 1 year in the NHL than Darcy Kemper has so far at age 29, when he didn't find it funny. And I think other guys were having fun with it. But there were, I think we saw a couple other guys that took it to heart too. And there were other things said, and he just got ahead of himself. And I don't think it's any shock that he gave up more goals than he did since March 11th. He took himself out of the game, and the second goal, the Fiala goal, was the one that really turned the game. And that starts with Kemper screwing up. So, on a play behind the net. So not very bright.
How often does that kind of chirping happen?
Just chirping all the time. And Kemper is the type of guy that he does that. He's a confident kid and things like that. And I think that because he was a beloved fixture in that locker room, and he has a lot of friends in there, some that have been traded, obviously, I think that he probably felt more comfortable and probably from Darcy's point of view, he thought he was having fun and it was taken the wrong way. And I think a couple of things that he said probably pierced a little harder, especially because of the way the team is struggling right now. So when he started making fun of players and making fun of the team, I think it really ticked some guys off. And we'll see what happens. I haven't paid attention today if they've announced who's starting in goal tomorrow. It just wouldn't shock me if Rick, after what happened last game, Rick Tocchet decides to not start Kemper, but we'll see. But otherwise, I mean, if you read the quotes from Koivu after the game and Eric Stahl in my story and today, I mean, they weren't happy with it, and they felt like karma got him back, and we'll see if it continues against Arizona. The Arizona game on